On FM23, Scotland has 4 playable levels with 4 divisions and a total of 42 playable teams. Now, the season in Scotland is a traditional winter season in Europe, so it runs from roughly August through to May, sometimes July through to June, depending on the season. But we will cover all levels of the playable pyramid, including European qualification and the domestic cup competitions. Now, we start our guide with the traditional top tier, the Cinch Premiership, which is a 12-team league playing a triple round-robin schedule initially for 33 games, before the league then splits in 2, with the top 6 teams heading into the Championship group and the bottom 6 teams heading into the relegation group, and both groups play a further 5 games and retain their points scored from the first phase of the league, so they don't have half points or anything like that. The full points scored in those first 33 games are carried over for a full 38-game season. Now, there are 5 European qualification places on offer in Scotland during the first season on FM23, with the top 4 league places gaining qualification along with the winner of the domestic cup, with the usual caveats about the cup winner getting a higher place already through the league. Now, all of these places are awarded to the Championship group. There's no extra European places playoff like there is in some leagues. In the relegation group, it's the bottom place team that is automatically relegated, with the 11th place team heading into a relegation playoff where they enter into a 2-legged tie against a team from the second tier, and which team that is we'll cover speaking of the second tier. So we move on now to the Cinch Championship, which is a 10-team league where teams play each other 4 times for a 36-game season. That's it. There's no splits or anything. It's just straight 4 times against each of the other 9 teams. There's 1 automatic promotion place on offer. That goes to the league winner, naturally, with 2nd through to 4th entering into those promotion playoffs. 3rd and 4th place teams play a 2-leg tie in the first round, with the winner advancing and facing in the same format against the 2nd place team. The winner of that semi-final effectively advances to the playoff against the 11th place team from the league above, the Premiership. Ultimately, the winner will play top 5 football the following season. At the bottom of the table, the 10th place team is automatically relegated, and the 9th place team heads into playoffs against 3 teams from the tier below. So it's a different relegation structure from the first to the second as it is to the second to the third. So the third tier is the Cinch League 1, which follows the same 10-team, 36-game format as the Championship. Once again, league winner is automatically promoted, with 2nd through to 4th heading into playoffs, and this is where it's slightly different. So these 3 teams are paired with the 9th place team from the Championship in a semi-final playoff. So 9th plays 4th, 2nd plays 3rd, and the winners face off in the final. They're 2-leg ties once again, with extra time and penalties after the second leg if level. Winners advance and battle for the final spot in the Championship for the following season. In terms of relegation, once again, it's 10th place team automatically getting relegated, with the 9th place team heading into the playoffs with 3 teams from Cinch League 2, which again is a 10-league team covering 36 games, 4 times against the other 9 teams, as we've stated. League winners automatically promoted, 2nd through 4th going to the same playoff format as the tier above. So 9th place from League 1 plays 4th place from League 2, 2nd, 3rd play each other. They meet off in the final promotion for the winner. In terms of relegation, there's no automatic relegation places, but the 10th place team does enter into a playoff with teams from the unplayable 5th tier, the winners of the Highland and Lowland League. So they face off, and the winner of that game plays 10th place in League 2 in a 2-leg playoff for a place in the league for the following season. We now shift focus to the domestic cup competitions, of which there are 3 in Scotland. The main cup competition is the Scottish Cup, which, as we've mentioned, awards the winner a qualification place in the Europa League, unless they've already achieved higher qualification through the league, and then it drops down to 5th place in the league. The preliminary and first rounds are contested by teams from unplayable leagues, with the 10 League 2 sides joining from the second round. All ties are single-leg ties with extra time and penalties if scores are level. The League 2 sides join the 30 winners from the first round, and then from the third round, the Championship and League 1 sides enter before the 12 Premiership sides enter from the 4th round. From there, it is a straight knockout tournament all the way through to the final. Again, Scottish Cup winners get a European qualification place. That's not the case for the League Cup, which is the Viaplay Cup, which is contested by all 42 league teams, plus 3 from the unplayable 5th tier leagues. The group phase sees 40 teams drawn into 8 groups of 5. The remaining 5 teams are the teams who'd qualified for European football from the previous season. They're giving a bye into the knockout round. The group stages see the groups being contested in a single round-robin format, so there's 4 games in each group, or you play 4 games in each group, rather. Any draws are being separated by a penalty shootout, however, with the winner getting 2 points instead of the usual 1 point for a draw. So you get 3 for a win, 2 for a win via penalties, 1 for a loss via penalties, and 0 for a loss, obviously. The 8 group winners plus the top 3 ranked second-place teams qualify into the knockout rounds to meet the remaining 5 teams that were playing in Europe this season. From the second round onwards, the competition is a straight knockout tournament, single game, extra time and penalties if scores are level. Nothing as a reward for the winner, like a European place or anything like that. Which is the same case for the final cup competition, which is the Challenge Cup or the SPFL Trust Trophy. This is for teams playing in the Championship and below, so it's not for Premiership sides. Along with the under-21 sides from most, if not all, Premiership teams, a handful of teams from the unplayable levels, plus guest teams from Northern Ireland and Wales join into this competition as well. Every match until the semi-finals are single legs going straight to penalties if scores are level. Extra time is then introduced for the semi-final and final. Now, the first round sees the bottom 3 teams from the previous season's League 2 paired with 8 teams from the unplayable 5th tier and the under-21 sides from the Premiership clubs. They're all drawn into the first round. The draw is split north and south, with the under-21 sides being drawn against one of the other clubs for the first round. For the second round, the draw remains regionalised, but the under-21 sides aren't separated, so they can face each other. The remaining League 2 sides and 2 clubs from League 1 join in the second round. The third round sees the introduction of the Championship clubs, plus the remaining sides from League 1, as well as 2 teams from the Cymru Premiership, or Premier League, in Wales, and the 2 clubs from the NIFL Premiership in Northern Ireland. From this point on, no further teams are added, and the competition continues as a straight knockout tournament through to the final. And that's it for the cup competition. There's no reward, once again, for winning the SPFL Trust Trophy, apart from prestige. With all that covered, we're now going to look at 5 fantastic save ideas for Scotland across the multiple levels of playable football. And as is tradition, we start with the reigning champions at the start of FM23, and that is Celtic. Now, not only are Celtic reigning champions, they also won the 22-23 season, which is what's simulated on FM23, and have been Scottish champions for 53 times. Not the most. We'll cover that in a second. They do have a fierce rivalry, which you probably are aware of, with Glasgow neighbours Rangers, who we'll cover separately as well, as part of the old firm. Both sides have had periods of domination throughout the years, with it being swinging back and forth over time, from beginning of time, basically. Scotland are currently the team to beat in Scotland, Celtic are the team to beat in Scotland, having recently won all but one league title since 2011. They also won the European Cup in 1967 and were UEFA Cup runners-up in 2003, so they have some European pedigree. So that must be your target if you take over Celtic. Continue the domestic dominance and try to bring more European success to Celtic Park. Now, speaking of Rangers, they're our next club. They hold the record for the most league titles in Scotland with 55, so it's very close. But they've only won 1 league title since the club went into administration, then insolvency, and then ultimately a new company was formed to take over the running of the club back in 2012. Now, the new co began life relegated down to the 4th tier. They had a 1-year transfer ban, and most first-team players left because they didn't want to get transferred to the new company. But they still saw nearly 50,000 fans in attendance for their first home game and most subsequent home games that season, which is a record for any 4th-tier team in the world, as far as I know. Back-to-back promotions followed, but they narrowly missed out on a return to the top flight immediately after that because of a playoff defeat. They did go up as champions in 2016, though, and have since clinched the title the first time in 2021 as this new company. But they're still very much in a Celtic-dominated era, so that's going to be your target if you take over as Rangers manager. Get back dominance in Scotland and then look to bring their first European trophy home to Ibrox. They were runners-up in the Europa League just a couple of seasons ago as well. Now, we move on to the last team from outside of the old firm to win the Scottish title, and that is Aberdeen, who took back-to-back titles in 1984 and 85, so it's a long time ago now, but that was under Sir Alex Ferguson. During that time, they also won the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1983, so they were in a bit of a dynasty during that period. In more recent times, they've become a solid best of the rest in Scotland, finishing runners-up to Celtic for 4 years, whilst Rangers are out of the league. But they've struggled last season, and by last season I mean the 21-22 season, the last season before FM23, where they finished 10th place and were the last team that didn't get relegated basically in the league, meaning they're primed for a rebuild on FM23 in order to return them to their 3rd place that is rightfully theirs, and ultimately the Scottish title once again, before maybe contemplating some more European success. Right, our final 2 clubs at the other end of the spectrum, really. Cove Rangers are up next. Now, for the first 80 years of their 100-plus year history, they were playing in the Aberdeenshire Amateur Leagues, which aren't on the game, unsurprisingly. They then spent the next 30 years in the 5th-tier Highland League, winning that league 7 times, and not every time you win the league do you get into the playoffs back throughout history, so they didn't have the opportunity to get promoted into league football for many of those times, but they did eventually secure promotion to league football in 2019, so they've won it 7 times over 30 years and finally got into the league for 2019. Immediate success came as they won League 2 at the first attempt and then League 1 after 2 seasons to start the 22-23 season in the Championship for the first time ever. You'll be facing a tough challenge though to continue this climb, as Cove actually suffered relegation in the 22-23 season, but you'll have the chance to turn those fortunes around on FM23 if you're starting in FM24. You'll be back in League 1, which is where you'll find our next club, who follow a very similar fairy tale story. That's Kelty Hearts, who climbed up the leads rapidly again in recent seasons. They started out as an amateur side in 1975 before joining the junior leagues, and eventually they won the 6th tier East of Scotland League in 2018. They then won the 5th tier Lowland League in 2020, but due to COVID, they couldn't get promoted, so they duly won the league again at a canter in 2021 and achieved promotion through the Pyramid Playoff. They then dominated League 2 at the first attempt, winning the title by more than 20 points. So they begin the 22-23 season in League 1 and we're looking to replicate Cove's success and to continue climbing the ranks. That'll be your target if you basically take over as Kelty manager. You've got to secure your League 1 football, win League 1, win the Championship, then win the Premiership, then go win into Europe, and you'll have climbed the whole pyramid with Kelty Hearts. So there you have it. That is a whistle-stop tour of the playable Scottish League on Football Manager, along with 5 great save ideas. Now, if you're familiar with either real-life Scottish football or you've managed there extensively on Football Manager, please head to the comments and share your thoughts, any corrections or stories of managing in Scotland. And whilst you're there, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the Sort It Out SI channel if you haven't already, and check out more league guides. We've got loads on the channel right now and all of the great content here. We're going to be kicking off FM24 very, very soon. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks a lot for watching.